Okay, watch out, welcome back. Okay, this video is going to be a quick how-to on changing some headstock bearings. Headstock bearings exist in every single motorcycle you could possibly think of, and I hope this video is going to help a great many of you. It doesn't matter what bike it is, doesn't matter what manufacturer it is, or what style of forks it's got. If it's got yokes and forks, or triple trees, whatever you choose to call them, it will have bearings that help it to turn from side to side, and they wear out and they need changing. It's a lot of work, it's time consuming, and the labour bill adds up and makes it sometimes extremely expensive, but the actual nitty-gritty of the job, changing those bearings themselves, is quick, easy and reasonably cost effective. So let's show you how it's done. Welcome back to Delboy's Garage. Right, so top yoke you don't need, and as you can see what I've done here is I've got the bike stripped down to this state. To get your motorcycle to this stage is the most time consuming part of it. Take your bike to a dealer, they'll charge you at least 2 or 3 hours labour for this job, and 90% of that is getting to this point and then building back up from this point. So this is all we're going to do in this video. I'm going to show you how to get this out, change the bearings and put it back in. All of the strippage and redressing afterwards, you can do that yourself. I'm not going to patronise you, I'll show you it. Right, top yoke comes off, as you saw, this simple centre nut, and it exposes these parts here. But before we go any further, I'm going to show you the parts we're going to change today. Okay, now I've been to this is a supplier, All Balls Racing. These are people who are very, very good supplier of bearings. I just got these from a supplier on the internet. I'm not going to bother with names and details and who they were. You get a dust seal top and bottom, and a top and bottom bearing. These are they. Just going to open these up, show you what we're actually replacing today. That's one bearing. Other, you'll see that they're roughly the same, and you get 2 seals. These go the other side, I'll show you they work. And for this particular bike, this particular fitment, this one here, come on over Ben, on this particular bike this is all broken up, it's a bit nasty and knackered and skanky, so I'm going to replace that in the, let's get it off. I'll take that off in a minute. I'm going to replace that with a new one. Now this was the last one in the world, wasn't it?
It seemed to be for the minute.
Be aware before you start a job like this to get all the parts you need first. I saw this on the internet as what's known as NOS. You'll see it listed as NOS, and that means new old stock. So all this is a genuine Kawasaki part. You can't buy that pattern from anywhere. It's just a rubber dust seal. It's got a hard plastic feel, but it's got like rubber bits attached. It's kind of very, very unique to Kawasaki. You wouldn't get that from anybody else, and I had to get one for that reason. And that's what you get. You get a genuine Kawasaki part. I could not get this from Kawasaki. Kawasaki dealer, obsolete, deleted, haven't got any, no, can't help you mate. You'll have to make something. Well, I found one, NOS, new old stock. Someone had one laying around, cost us £9, Ben?
Yeah, plus postage.
Plus it's £12 including postage, and I think Kawasaki would have charged considerably more. So sometimes you can get little gems out of it. Right, so that's that out of the way. Actually, I'll keep that.
And also those seals were £30.
These, yeah, that's £30 for those, and £12 for that, so £42 for parts for this job. I think that should do the job amicably. Also, what you'll find when you look at these, there's a whole list of different bikes they fit on. Don't worry too much about that because most bikes share some sort of parts like bearings. Not too much to worry about as long as they're the right ones for the job. So I'll show you to get it undone. First thing, screwdriver. Actually, I'll put that back on. And this particular bike is going to drop the actual thing out first of all. There's a little seal or a little washer in here with these 2 clips on, which just sits in there so that you can see what it does. It just sits there as a little washer so that when you put the top yoke on it, it doesn't bear directly on this. So that comes out of the way first. And then we've got this. Now this looks like, if you ever ride bicycles, this is what you get on your bottom bracket. It's a little collar. Now you can, if you're not, here you go, look. That's right there. With your hand, you can knock that round. I'm not going to do it in the direction of the tank because it will definitely do it. You can hit that with a hammer and undo it, but I'm going to show you a better method. Now, what I've got, this is We all know what that is. Everybody's seen those before. That's the C-spanner. You call it a C-spanner because it's that shape, and you use it to adjust the shock absorbers on those rear shocks, and it fits in here. So all that does is goes in there. There it is. That's better. Get a purchase on it. Get it loose. And that collar, just undo it. Now at this point, put your hand underneath here and support this, because it will just drop out. Just take that, it's just a screw, just take that off, we'll clean it up, put it back on later. I can take this knackered old seal out of the way, go in the bin, and then just give it a pop down. You see here, you look in the top end, that's the headstock bearing. You can see the bearing moving, so that dust cap is very essential, you need it there. Now that bearing, you can't hook that out, so what we do is push this down, just give it a little tap downwards with your hand, then come back up. Now you can see what happens if you don't need much, just tap it down. When it comes back up, you'll see that this is removing the bearing as it goes. So out of the way, little rubber O-ring, keep that safe, and that's the top headstock bearing. And that falls out underneath. So there we are. That's the top. Actually, you can see from this has recently been greased, and it is just possible, maybe, that this bike has had a pair of headstock bearings in it at some point, but I can't tell, I don't know, and I'm not going to build this bike, make a finished Street Fighter, and then find out it needs a pair. So I'm just bang a new set in it anyway. Right, let's get this on the bench out of the way, and I'll show you what we do with the headstock itself. Okay, giving this a wipe round, we always like to know that the jobs we're going to do need doing, especially when we put a bit of expense into it. Check this out. I've got a little mark there, which you can feel with your finger. That little mark is where a bearing has lived on that for a while, and on there. So there are some definite wear marks, and also if you look at this, this is the inner bearing face, or this is the bearing cup, and you can see on this back edge how that has had a nasty amount of wear, and there's scoring around there, so that's good to replace that one. And as for the bottom one, I'll show you something. Check this out. That busted up dust seal that was here all broken up, that has been allowing the water to get in, and there's rust in there. Come over to the bench, I'll show you this, man. And that's the bottom bearing there. Rusty and horrid. So if this bearing wasn't giving me any, I'll talk to you at the end about the symptoms of how to feel for whether you need these. Somebody emailed us today and said that, how do you actually know you need headstock bearings? Is there play in it? Does it wiggle back and forth or what? So I'll tell you at the end. But honestly, when you take them out, it is on looking at these here. Christ almighty, can you come in here and have a look at this? I might be able to get this out first. You see up in there? Can you get the camera up in there? Look at that. That is a big nasty bruise of rust. It's all rough and horrible where the water has got to that bearing and absolutely trashed it. So, you know, you may not have any symptoms at all on your bike of whether it needs bearings or not. You may not have anything. But nevertheless, when you take them out to inspect them, you'll find that that's the wear and tear. In the manual, the climber manual, it says periodically to drop the headstock out, to clean these bearings with a solvent, to dry them with an airline and to re-grease them, and I can completely understand that. Honestly, I've never done that, I just stick a new set in. But if there's no real wear on them, which obviously there is, then you could just re-grease that and prevent it. That is preventable, but not today. So I'm going to grab the hammer and show you a little trick. Okay. So how do we get these out? Now these bearing cups, which are damaged, have got to be changed. We'll put some new ones in. And to get them out, have a close look, Pen. Can you see? Now, can you see in there that little recess that the screwdriver fits into? And then I can hit on the back of that bearing. And there's another one the other side as well. Now you can also get here, all the way around this bearing cup, there's a lip on this inner edge. And on the bottom one there's a lip as well. So the idea is, quite simply, that you reach up with the screwdriver, you go into that little recess and you tap it out from the underneath. Oh, does it look? In there. Ready? Watch. You see it coming out? You don't need to beat it hard. Don't lean on it, monkey boy. Just tap it out. A couple of hits either side. Remember, you're bringing this out of its hole. It's an interference fit. It's really tight in there. If you bend one side out, without evening up the other. You've got to kind of noodle it out a little bit at a time, so that if you push it too much one side, you'll damage the hole it sits in. Remember, this frame is aluminium. Aluminium is softer than steel, and this is a steel bearing cup. Now, I know I am going to get flamed to death. Where's my eye sockets? Here we are. Right, Penny's going to stay over there, out of harm's way. On the wheel bearing video, I've got my pants flamed out from not wearing eye protection, so there you go. Now what I'm going to do with this, and the only reason, quite rightly, that you should wear this is that these bearing cups are extremely hard steel, hardened high tensile carbon steel, and hitting them with the end of a screwdriver is possibly going to chip a lump off, which can go in your orbits, so that's why you wear it. So come in close again with the camera pen. All I'm doing is going a little bit at a time on that bearing cup, either side, and you can see that bit by bit it's coming out. Only 1 or 2, 3 hits at a time. There we go, and it gets easier, so you don't have to keep hitting it quite so hard. There it goes. There she is. That bearing cup, we're going to keep it, so I'm going to show you what you use it for in a minute. The next thing is to take the bottom one out, and it comes out exactly the same way. It's a little bit boring. When I look down there, can you see down inside? Can you see there?
Yep.
There's a little notch there, and there's one this side as well. So those 2 notches we hit there, 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 and we just push that bottom one out. So if I come in the top, can you go in from underneath, watch that come out? Is it coming?
A little bit.
You feel it?
It's coming now.
Should come out bit by bit. I can feel that going. There it is. Right, let's clean these up and have a good old close look. You'll see what I mean. That's the top one. And there's the damage there. That's definitely toast. And the bottom one is outrageous. It's in a terrible state. And again, there were no symptoms I could feel whatsoever. There it is. The state of that. You can see the kind of echo marks where the rusty bearing sat against that. So that's knackered as well. Now, if you don't feel the marks on that now, if you don't feel that notching, what it's all about is you go up the road, you see how it works. You run up the road and you kind of feel like the bike's wandering a little bit. Get it home, get it off the ground, get the front wheel up in the air, crouch down in front of the bike and grab hold of the bottom of those forks and turn the forks through a side-to-side sweep, and it should be smooth. Yeah, you'll get resistance from the cables and the hoses and the brake hoses and all that, but fundamentally the movement should be nice and smooth. If you get a little notch in the middle, and you'll feel it, you will feel it straight away, just a little notch in the middle, it kind of almost goes donk and stops there. That's where one of these little grooves is catching one of these rollers and it's just resting in it. And the problem that causes is when you're driving up the road, those little minute movements of the bars that you make in order to maintain balance, they're not so fluid. They tend to be a bit mechanical. Then the bike tends to wander and you find the bike wandering. You may get none of those symptoms, but if you check it, you'll find they're on their way anyway. This bike's, 1990? How's that, 16, 17 years old, this bike, and that's probably not the first set by any means. Right, these bearings themselves, not relevant really. You see by the state of that on the inside. So I think we can safely say these are knackered. The next job, I'm going to put those 2 bearing cups into the frame now. Show you how that's done. Now these bearings are the same. I know they're the same because the numbers on the packets are the same, and the numbers here on the bearings are the same. So they're identical, they go the same top and bottom. So what I'm going to do with these, first of all, Let's put those there. I'm going to put these two in the frame to replace them, and I'll show you a little trick. Okay, after drying out all the old grease, use your fingers and go around that and just feel for any little burrs or damage. And what you're feeling for, more importantly than anything else, is cracks. Give it a good, close inspection. If you have a crack here, you have a world of hurt, and I have seen it happen, especially on bikes that do a lot of stunts. But these are perfect, absolutely lovely, all clean. A couple of little tiny burrs there. So what I'm going to do is take a little tiny bit of my paper, just a little bit of paper. This is a 300 grit. Rub it against itself and take most of the shine off it, so it's not. I only want a tiny little wipe. So that's just, yeah, that's like 1200 grit now. I'm just going to wipe around the inside of that. Take some of these little marks off. I'm not going to make this hole bigger because that would be stupid. And my fork seals and my headstock bearings would fall out. There we are. And that's literally it. Wipe round it. Don't go rubbing. There we are. Now that now feels lovely. There's some little marks where it's had a set of bearings beaten into it before. That's ready. Right, grease it up. Okay, with all these things, fits better in if you put some lubricant on it. And if you just bang it in there dry, nothing wrong with that. But it's far better if you just grease the hole a little bit. Don't put loads in because you don't want to hydrolock it. Just a little smear of grease around the inside of there before we put this in. And all I'm using, for those who keep asking this question, it's just an LM2 multi-purpose grease, nothing special. Doesn't need to be anything special. This is the grease you should use the most in your workshop. Alright, now, there's a new one. Don't get beaten, the old one's back in. Okay. Right, I'm going to put that on there. That grease around the outside. And that on there. Now, taking the old one, I'll show you what we do with it. Firstly, what I've always done. Now this is the time, the most likely time you need eye protection. Always make sure you protect yourself. What I'm going to do with this, just using the soft edge of the hammer on this lip, I'm just literally going to get it started. Bear in mind how hard this metal is. You can't heat the frame up to make it expand. Many people say put these in the freezer to make them smaller. You can do that, I guess, and it's not uncommon, but personally I think putting high carbon, very brittle, high tensile steel in a freezer, making it extremely cold, makes it more brittle, so I don't like to do it. Room temperature, please. And all I'm doing with that, I'm getting it in. That's it, right. Now that that's in, just about as much as it will go and it's flush with this, I'm going to take the old bearing cup because it goes down inside its recess. Come in close, man. And I am literally tapping this. It's just little taps. Don't hit it, don't beat it hard. Remember, it's brittle steel. Can you see this edge there? Just right on this edge at the front. See that going in? Oops. You can see it going in. Now, at this point, I've now started to beat the old one in slightly. That doesn't matter, it won't hurt at all. When you feel it go in, you'll feel the hammer keep going. You'll feel it going down. As you're hitting it, the hammer kind of stops dead. The minute the hammer kind of gets a little bit of bounce to it, you know it's bottomed out. So you're feeling for that. All the way around. And that will just lift out with your fingers. Now when you go in at this point, you can see now, you're looking at this lip all the way around to make sure it's nice and level all the way around, and that there's no gap here. Get your fingernail in underneath and feel for any gap, no gap at all. Perfect. That's it. Okay. That's that one in. Same goes for this one. A bit of grease up inside the frame there. I've already prepared this one as well. And then around the outside of the cup. And remember the bearing, if you look at, you just pop round, the bearing's that way on, so the chamfer's that way, so it goes up inside, fat end first. So just get your orientation correct, because it's a bit of a bummer to have taken back out. Bear in mind, if you put that in the wrong way, then to get it out, there is no lip to beat against, so you're going to have to trash it getting it out. And this is exactly the same. Pop that in there. Now you'll get like a start on it, just with your fingers. Just use a soft, where's the hands go? Reach for it. There you go. There you go. Lovely. And again, same rules apply all around the inside with a fingernail. Make sure you cannot get anything in there. Nice and clear. Right, so that's the frame prepared for action. You've now got 2 bearing cups in there, all ready to go. And we need to do the bearings now, or the bottom bearing, on the actual yoke itself. I'll show you how that's done. Right, now getting this off is always a case of butchering it to get it off. And this rubber seal that's got a metal liner inside it, I don't want to kill that too much. That's going to go back on afterwards. So I need to just get this off. And what I've always found is so much easier with all this movement here is I just get the old cage, stretch it open like that, so that the rollers can come out. Just get an old screwdriver in there and butcher it out the way. It's only a case of removing the outer cage and taking the bearing in half. See a bigger one in there. Doesn't look very nice, but it's a means to an end. Just get the outer cage off. Now once that's out the way, get all the bearings off it. You just got that inner cup to remove. You can see a lot more, and it's easier to remove that once you can see the lip. Let's get all this out of the way. Right, okay. Once you've got the outer cage off, there's a rubber seal that lives underneath there. Lip that over the top and pull that off out of the way. Put that back on in a minute. And now what you're left with is just the inner race, or the inner bearing cap on the bottom of there. Now there's a ledge here that bottom's against, and then the whole thing, obviously that then reduces in thickness here. So we just need to get that off of there. Now you can do it fancy if you wish. You can use a puller or anything of that stuff if you've got fancy tools, but I'm trying to show you this as simple as I can without fancy tools, because you don't need them really. Right, once you get a little gap to it, I'll just go for, where are we? There's the big red one. It's a bit thicker. Get that down the side, and you're putting a wedge really. You're just driving the screwdriver in as a wedge and driving that bearing off. You right, Pen? Can you see it?
No.
Sorry. Right, so once that's got a little bit of a gap, come down with a wider chisel. Being careful of the steel inside. Going to lean against this lock stop, give it a wedge, and then aim down past this, not in towards it. So you're just kind of driving into the gap. Like that. You see it? Mm-hmm. You see it? Do you want to come around this side? Mm-hmm. Just driving the wedge down until the whole thing just drops off its mount. is. Now, taking off this little inner cup isn't always a very nice experience. It's always a bit hammer, chisel, bang, crunch, as you saw, chiseling it off there. And you get little marks on this and that. Unless you get yourself a puller, and I want to try and show you how to do this job without specialist tools, you can beat it off. It just taps off, so you just got to drive a wedge in there and drive one screwdriver, thicker one, eventually get a chisel in, drive it down and drive that off. How you do that, how that works and how that goes for you is all down to your sort of your deftness with tools, if you like. If you're pretty handy with the tools, you'll get the right angle and pop it in. However, once it's done, obviously then you have to realise you've made just a little bit of a mess here at the bottom of the alloy yoke. So round the bottom, just clean up any burrs that you've made on this before you put it back on, before you put the new one on. Okay, time to reassemble this, and now that's all off. I've given it, as you can say, a good clean up, get a little fire around. Any little burrs or little nicks that you've put in it and chiseling that off, then that's easy, just round them back up, smooth them off. A little bit of WD-40 on it, or some grease like that, just round there. And then on this instance, I'm going to reuse this seal. This seal's okay, it's like a little rubber gasket that just sits down the bottom. It's got a few little nicks in it, but it's absolutely fine. It just pops on first. That snaps down into place underneath there. And the next thing, the bearing's going to go on that way. And obviously these little seals come in the kit. And what happens is they're a little cup that just sits in there, because you can see, normally you can see in all these rollers, and that's where the water's been causing problems. With that fitted like that, once that's all fitted in there, you can see you can't get it. It keeps the water out completely, and it all assists in keeping the grease in place. So that goes on next. Slide that down in, it just sits on there neatly. And now the bearing. Right, before you put a wheel bearing on, you've got to pack it with grease. And the method of packing a bearing, come close, mate. Packing a bearing with grease means pushing that grease inside it. So get the grease in the palm of your hand, it won't do you any harm, not just regular LM grease, and start massaging it in there. So look, you fill it all up in this gap. If you do not pack this bearing with grease, there's nothing else that's going to lubricate it. So the time you take doing this, you need about a teaspoon of grease in your hand to start with, and just push it all in. Just massage it into those little grooves. And make sure that when you've finished, there's none left. That whole teaspoon of grease has gone into that bearing, all the way in. Just massage it in. And have no air gaps. That's the point. You want to get that on there so there's no air gaps, and that bearing itself. And then twist the bearing round to distribute that grease around the inside. That will warm it all up and move it around nicely and get a little bit more. Messy old job, but you know, actually, as you can see, it cleans your hands. Clean grease will take all the crap and the grime out of your skin anyway. So there you go. And a lot of people might say, you know, use gloves, whatever, but look, honestly, I've been doing this 30 years, I've never had any problems. Wash your hands properly afterwards with proper soap so they don't even smell of grease, and then you'll be fine. Your skin is quite safe. This stuff won't kill you. Right, so that bearing is now packed solid with grease. A little bit more on the shaft there, around the base. And this little cup that it's going to sit in, I'm going to pack that little cup with grease as well, just because once it's done and the bearing's down on top, you can't get inside there. And I can't stress enough, this is one of those things that reminds you, when you see people jet washing their bikes or power washing their bikes with a steam cleaner, this is the kind of thing that you end up washing out. People, if you play a jet wash on a wheel bearing or any form of bearing, all this grease that's extremely important, you just wash it all out and then you've got none there, and then it's no wonder that they rust up, end up in the state these were. Right, so this is all done, nice and greased up, all massaged in. When you spin it round, it should feel thick now, kind of chewy because it's all full of grease. Right, so that goes on that way, taper facing upwards, over the first little bit, and drop it down squarely onto its mount point, and you'll feel it touch home. So there it is. Now I'm going to wipe some of this off and I'll show you what we do next. Okay, at this point, take the old cup, that bearing cup that I just beat off, take that and put it on upside down. The reason we go upside down is obviously that's a thin, small face and it's going to press against this inner face. You don't want it to press against this basket because it will do damage to it. So if you use the thin edge against the thin edge, you won't do any damage. If you use the fat edge down there, then you could press against this and stress it. Also, that's a bigger surface to hit against. So that's now going to use, we're literally using this now as a seal driver. So take a small hammer, and like we did before, just tap in all the way around. You can tell it's home if you get this little gasket at the bottom. When that won't move, she's all the way down. Not to mention that, you can feel it, like I said to you before. It's getting stiffer. Right, now, as you can see there, let's just wipe some of this grease out of the way. That little gasket underneath won't move now. That's wedged solid. The bearing's moving nicely. Nice free movement in there. So there's no need to beat that down any harder. That has gone home as far as it's going to go. And we take that little driver off. And there she is. Now that represents all of the kind of surgery that you need to commit to it. All we need to do now is insert that up through, put the top bearing on once we've packed it with grease, and then just put the bolt in and it's done. So let's do that quickly. Right, now, big handful of grease. And what I like to do is get up inside here and put as much in there as you can. Don't need a massive amount, but you're trying to put it just round the mouth of this, all around it, to try and keep any water out. You saw the damage it did when we took it all apart. Just spread it up in there, in all the little grooves. So there's loads and loads of it in there. Same in the top, all round. You don't fill all this area with grease because it's all, you can see there's a massive hole in there. You don't need that. It's just around where the bearings are going to go. Right. Nice final layer of grease around there. Back in. Now, drive that all the way home. And make sure that before you do anything at the top, there's a nice full sweep of movement, nothing's binding, nothing's catching. You take a pre-prepared, fully packed top bearing, drop that in on top, and push it all the way home. And we have a little O-ring there. That goes in. Right, so once that's in, everything's nice and secure, and we're going to put the top nut in. I would say this, on this particular bike, we've got this big rubber seal. It's got a soft rubber lip on the inside, a bit like a fork seal, and it's hard plastic in between. So all that happens with this is that recess there sits on that. It's just a design of Kawasaki, that's how they do it, and that sits neatly through there, then that screws on. Your bike may be different. Just basically put the nut on the top. Screw that down nice and tight. Now at this point you're setting the tension. Your particular bike, when you turn those bearings, remember these are tapered bearings, so as you pull them in they're going to wedge tighter and tighter until the damn thing won't move. So you don't set them just tight, you set them so that there's plenty of free movement and no play. But you really got to set that when the whole bike's rebuilt. There we are. Now that feels like there's a little bit too stiff there, so I'm going to leave it at that point. This little lock washer there, just going to put that back on. It's just a standard part for this bike. Then at that point, Top yoke goes back on. And then nut and washer. Now, as you can see inside there, you cannot get to that now to do it up any tighter. Your bike may be different. Some bikes have 2 lock rings and you tap them round with a little screwdriver and a hammer. You can get a screwdriver in there, tap it round tighter, and all you're looking for is for there to be nice free movement, no play whatsoever, because if these 2 bearings are backed off too much, there'll be play. As they're tapered, they'll come out of their tapers and there'll be free play. You don't need any free play whatsoever, but you don't want it to be too tight that it restricts movement. So in this instance, I'm going to leave that there. For what it's worth, for the purposes of this job, I've got to rebuild this whole front end, and that's not part of this video. All this video is about was showing you how to replace the 2 bearings, how to get those out, how to replace the bearing cups, and then how to fit that bottom bearing on that bottom yoke. Just basically drive it off with a wedge, if you like, and then put all the new seals and everything in. Your bike may be different in the sense you may have different seals, different spaces, different washers. That's why I always suggest you get yourself a manual, a Climber, a Haynes, or better still, a genuine manual from the manufacturer, and then you can follow what you've got, what you haven't got, and you can find out any parts you need. For that, I reckon, is it, don't you, Pen?
40 quid.
£40.
Yep.
That's all that's cost to do, including everything, including this new seal. If that seal had been okay, I wouldn't have needed to replace it at all. But in this instance, I've got that, I've upgraded it, and now, thankfully, for this particular project, we can get on with a modification, got some killer paintwork planned and all sorts of fun things, but you can't do any of that till you fix the things that are wrong with it. And although there was no play in these, no notchy or anything like that, they didn't have a notch and said nothing, it felt great, and there was plenty of grease in there, the grease all looked new. You saw, when we took them out, they were still rusted and in a horrible condition, so it doesn't hurt. Maybe once in a bike's lifetime, if you're going to keep it for a long time, to just drop the headstock out completely and have a good look at it. And if it's nice and it's okay, grease it back up, put it all back in. But hey, for what it costs, 40 quid, stick them set bearings in. There we are. Headstock bearings. Been wanting to do this video for a long, long time. I hope it helps you. This is the kind of video that we hope you put in your saved box and you use it one day in the future when you need it. Share it with friends, send it to people who might be doing it, and get that knowledge out there to help each other. What do you reckon, Pen?
Perfect.
Perfect. See you next time.
That's for